They promised. That is the part that makes me laugh now. Not a happy laugh, a cold one. I stood on the stage of the breathless auditorium. The air smelled of expensive perfume and old paper. The dean was reading names, long, impressive names. Future surgeons, future saviors, Dr. Elena Vance. The microphone echoed. The applause erupted. It was a tsunami of sound. I looked down at the front row, seats 4A and 4B. Empty. Not just empty, they were glaringly vacant. Like missing teeth in a perfect smile. My parents swore they would be here. They said they were proud. They said this was our victory. But as I reached for my diploma, the heavy leather folder that represented 8 years of hell, sleepless nights, and coffee that tasted like battery acid, I felt a vibration against my thigh. My phone. I shouldn't have checked it. I should have smiled for the camera. I should have shaken the dean's hand and walked off into the sunset. But I checked. I slipped the phone out of my pocket, hiding it behind the folds of my black gown. One notification from the bank. Alert. Transaction attempted. $4,500. Club Onyx VIP table. Miami FL. My blood turned to ice. Then it boiled. They weren't stuck in traffic. They weren't in a hospital. They were in Miami with my younger sister, Tiffany. They skipped my medical school graduation to throw her a content creation launch party. And the punchline? They were trying to pay for it with my card. The emergency card I gave my mother for life or death situations. Apparently, bottle service is life or death. The dean held out the diploma. He smiled, waiting for me to take it. I looked at the empty seats. I looked at a phone screen blinking in my hand. I didn't cry. The old Alina would have cried. The daughter who desperately wanted their approval would have sobbed, but Dr. Vance, she was done. I tapped the screen. Decline fraud. Block card. I slipped the phone back into my pocket, took my diploma, and smiled. It was the sharpest smile I had ever worn. Let them eat cake, but they are not doing it on my dime. Not anymore. To understand why blocking a credit card felt like cutting an artery, you have to understand the ecosystem of the Vance family. In nature, some organisms are parasites. They attach themselves to a host and drain it dry until it collapses. In my house, that parasite wore pink lip gloss and called itself Tiffany. From the moment she was born, Tiffany was the main character. I was the backstage crew. I was the lighting technician. I was the one sweeping the floor after the show. My mother, Linda, loved to say that Tiffany had star quality. Look at her, Alina, Mom would say, watching Tiffany twirl in a dress that cost more than my entire semester's worth of textbooks. She's delicate. She's meant for the screen. Well, you're sturdy. You're a survivor. Sturdy. That was the word they used to justify everything. Because I was sturdy, I didn't need new clothes. Because I was sturdy, I didn't need a tutor. I could just study harder. Because I was sturdy. I could work double shifts at the diner after high school to pay for the electric bill while Dad was between projects and Mom was investing in Tiffany's modeling portfolio. I remember the day I got my acceptance letter to pre-med. It was the proudest moment of my life. I ran into the kitchen, the envelope shaking in my hands. Mom, Dad, I got in. Top of the waiting list, but I got in. Mom didn't even look up from her iPad. She was scrolling through Tiffany's Instagram comments. "That's nice, honey," she mumbled. "Hey, do you think we can transfer some money from your savings? Tiffany needs new headshots for this audition in LA. It's her big break." I froze. "Mom, that's my tuition deposit. If I don't pay it by Friday, I lose my spot." She finally looked up. Her eyes went wide, swimming with that weaponized disappointment she had perfected over 20 years. "Elena, don't be selfish. Your sister has a dream. You can always go to school next year. Doctors are always in demand. But modeling, ideally she has to strike now while she's young." Selfish. That was the second word in their vocabulary. If I kept the money I earned scrubbing grease off diner tables, I was selfish. If I wanted to buy a stethoscope instead of a plane ticket for Tiffany, I was selfish. I didn't give them the tuition money that day. I fought them. I screamed. I cried. And for the next 4 years, they made me pay for that defiance. They called it the family tax. Since I wouldn't fund Tiffany's vanity projects outright, they simply stopped paying for everything else. We're a little short on the mortgage this month, Elena. Since you're so independent now, surely you can help. The car broke down, Elena. Unless you want us walking to work, we need your help. I was 22 years old, studying the Krebs cycle at 3 a.m. and terrified that my parents would end up homeless. So I paid. I worked nights as a scribe in the ER. I ate instant noodles. I wore shoes with holes in the soles. And every month I sent a check home. I told myself I was keeping the family afloat, but I wasn't keeping us afloat. I was fueling the yacht that Tiffany was partying on. While I was learning how to intubate patients on 4 hours of sleep, Tiffany was influencing, which apparently meant posting photos of acai bowls and buying thousands of fake followers with the money I sent for the water bill. They groomed me. They trained me like a dog to respond to their distress signals. They knew that if they whispered we might lose the house, I would open my wallet. They weaponized my competence against me. But the funny thing about training a dog is that eventually the dog learns to bite. And standing on that stage with my blocked credit card burning a hole in my pocket, I realized something terrifying. They didn't miss my graduation because they didn't care. They missed it because they didn't think I mattered. To them, I wasn't a person. I wasn't a doctor. I was an ATM with a heartbeat, and the ATM just ran out of cash. Medical school is designed to break you. It is a 4-year hazing ritual where sleep is a luxury and stress is a food group. But for me, the academic pressure was the easy part. The anatomy labs, the board exams, those were logical. You study, you pass. The real torture was the phone calls. My phone became a bomb I carried in my scrub pocket. Every time it buzzed during rounds, my heart would hammer against my ribs. Was it Dad? Was the electricity off again? Was Mom crying because the creditors were calling? The ultimate ambush happened during my second year. I had just finished a 14-hour shift. I sounded like antiseptic and exhaustion. I was walking back to my car in the hospital parking garage when my father called. His voice wasn't angry, it was worse. It was small. "Elena," he whispered. "We're going to lose the house." The house. The red brick suburban fortress where Tiffany had her princess bedroom and I had the basement. "What do you mean?" I leaned against the cold concrete wall, sliding down until I hit the floor. "I sent you $800 last week. It's not the bills, honey. It's the bank. They're refinancing. The interest rates. Look, your mother's credit score took a hit because of that business venture with Tiffany." Business venture. That was code for buying $5,000 worth of inventory for a jewelry line that Tiffany got bored of in a week. "Gad, I don't have any more money. I'm living on loans." "We don't need money," he said quickly. Too quickly. "We need a name, a cosigner. Just for the refinance. Your credit is perfect. If you sign, the rate drops, the payments stabilize, and we save the house. It's just a formality. A formality." I knew, logically, that this was a bad idea. Every financial instinct I had screamed run. But then came the guilt, the heavy artillery. Elena, Mom's voice, chimed in for the background, weepy and fragile. "This is the house you grew up in. This is where we raised you, where we sacrificed everything so you could be a doctor. Are you really going to let strangers kick us out on the street because you won't sign a piece of paper?" They knew exactly where to cut. They carved out my gratitude and replaced it with obligation. I drove to the bank the next morning in my scrubs. I signed the papers. I stared at the black ink of my signature next to theirs. "Elena Vance." "You're saving us," Gad said, clapping a hand on my shoulder. "You're a good girl, Elena. The best." For a week, I felt like a hero. Then the reality set in. Being a cosigner didn't just mean helping them get a loan. It meant I was legally shackled to their financial incompetence. 3 months later, I got the first alert. Payment overdue. I called Dad in a panic. "Oh, don't worry," he said breezily. "We had to pay for Tiffany's portfolio update. We'll double up next month." They didn't double up. I had to pick up extra shifts at the campus clinic just to cover their mortgage payment on top of my rent. I was paying for a house I didn't live in, for parents who treated me like a silent partner in their bad decisions. I stopped eating lunch. I stole graham crackers from the patient lounge. I studied by the light of the hallway because I was terrified to turn on my own lamps and waste electricity. And while I was drowning, shrinking, disappearing into the grind, I saw the photos. Tiffany in Cabo, Tiffany at Coachella, Tiffany holding a brand new designer bag, captioning it number blessed, number family, money. I zoomed in on the photo. In the reflection of her sunglasses, I could see my parents. They were laughing, holding cocktails. They weren't broke. They were broke for me. They had money for vacations. They had money for appearances. They just didn't want to spend their fun money on boring things like a roof over their heads. That was the sturdy daughter's job. I sat in the library that night, staring at that photo until my eyes burned. I realized then that I wasn't saving the house. I was the house. I was the foundation they were stomping on. But looking at the deed I had foolishly signed, I noticed a clause, paragraph 14, section B, a clause about right of contribution and forced sale in event of default. My parents never read the fine print. They assumed I was too busy or too submissive to read it either. They were wrong. I didn't say a word. I paid the bill. I kept the receipts. I logged every single dollar. I was building a file thicker than my anatomy textbook. If they wanted me to be part of the house, fine. I would be the termite in the walls, and when the time was right, I wouldn't just leave. I would bring the whole structure down. The morning of graduation, I woke up before the alarm. The sun was just bleeding through the blinds, painting stripes of gold across my small apartment floor. I had ironed my gown 3 times. I had lint rolled the black fabric until it was sterile. I had bought a waterproof mascara, just in case I cried when I saw my parents in the crowd. I was 26 years old, a doctor of medicine, and I was still a little girl waiting for her parents to clap. This time is different. I told my reflection as I pinned the cap to my hair. They booked the flight, they sent the itinerary, they promised. At 8:30 a.m., I was standing in the living room, ready to leave. The ceremony started at 10 a.m. I was standing in the living room, ready to leave. My phone rang, Mom calling. I smiled. They were probably calling to ask where to park, or maybe they were lost on campus. I picked up on the first ring. Hey, I'm just heading out. Are you guys close? Elena. My mother's voice was breathless, frantic. It was the voice she used when the credit card bill arrived or when Tiffany broke a nail. Elena, listen to me. We're not going to make it. The air left the room. What? Are you okay? Was there an accident? My doctor brain kicked in. Triage. Assess. Stabilize. No accident. It's Tiffany. She's having a crisis, Elena. A severe episode. She locked herself in the bathroom at the hotel. She's threatening to, she's spiraling. You know how sensitive she is? We can't leave her alone. We have to stay. A crisis. Tiffany had a crisis when Starbucks got her order wrong. Tiffany had a crisis when her TikTok views dropped. Mom, I said, my voice trembling, it's my graduation. I'm graduating from medical school. Today. I know, honey, I know. She sounded annoyed now, like I was the one being unreasonable. But this is mental health, Elena. We can't just ignore a cry for help. You're the doctor. You should understand. We'll make it up to you. We'll do a big dinner next month. Next month, I closed my eyes. I could feel the tears pricking the corners, threatening to ruin the waterproof mascara. Okay, I whispered. I understand. Take care of her. I was about to hang up. I was about to accept the disappointment like I always did. But then she kept talking. Wait, Elena, don't hang up. Since we're dealing with this emergency, there's a small problem. What problem? The card. The emergency card you gave me. I'm trying to pay the specialist to calm Tiffany down, but it declined. It says blocked. I frowned. Specialist? You said she was locked in a hotel bathroom. What specialist takes credit cards over the phone on a Sunday morning? And then I heard it. Through the phone line, faint but undeniable. The heavy, rhythmic thumping of bass. Thump, thump, thump. And a voice. A loud DJ voice shouting in the distance, "Welcome to the Miami VIP Lounge." They weren't at a hotel. They weren't dealing with a mental health crisis. "Mom," I said, my voice dropping an octave. "Where are you?" "I told you, the hotel." "Stop asking questions and unblock the card, Elena. We need $4,500 immediately or they're going to lose the reservation. I mean, the appointment." She slipped. "Reservation?" I asked. The treatment center." God, why do you have to be so difficult? Your sister is suffering and you're interrogating me? Just transfer the money. Do you want her to hurt herself? The manipulation was so clumsy, so desperate. It was almost insulting. They were at a club. They were throwing a party, and they needed my money to pay the caterer or the bottle service because their own cards were maxed out. They chose a party over my doctorate, and they were using a fake suicide threat to extort me. Something inside my chest snapped. It wasn't a loud crack. It was the quiet sound of a tether being cut. "Elena, did you hear me?" "Unblock the card." I looked at myself in the mirror. The cap, the gown, the eyes of a woman who had saved lives but couldn't save herself from this toxicity. "I hear you, Mom," I said. "I hear the music." "What?" "I hear the bass. I hear the DJ. And I hear you lying to me on the most important day of my life." "Elena, you're imagining things." "No," I interrupted. "I'm diagnosing. And the prognosis is terminal." I didn't wait for her to scream. I didn't wait for the gaslighting. I hung up. I stood there in the silence of my apartment. My hands weren't shaking anymore. They wanted money. They wanted a reservation. Fine. I would give them a bill they could never pay. I didn't go to the graduation after party. I didn't go out for drinks with my cohort. I went home, took off the gown, and stared at the wall for 4 hours. The silence was heavy. It was the sound of a bridge burning down. 2 days later, they came back. I knew they were back because I got a notification from the security system at their house, the house I paid for. Motion detected at front door. I drove over, not to apologize, not to beg. I needed my documents. My birth certificate, my social security card, the original copy of the deed. I knew that once I started the war, they would hold those papers hostage. I walked in using my key. The house smelled like stale champagne and denial. They were in the living room. Tiffany was sprawled on the couch, wearing sunglasses indoors, scrolling on her phone. Mom was pacing. Dad was hiding behind a newspaper, the coward's shield. When the door clicked shut, the air shifted. Mom spun around. She didn't look happy to see me. She looked feral. "You," she hissed. "You have a lot of nerve showing your face here." I stood in the entryway, my hands in my pockets, gripping my car keys. "I just came for my paperwork, Linda." "Paperwork," she laughed, a sharp, jagged sound. "You blocked the card, Alina. Do you know how embarrassing that was? The promoter came to our table. He said the card was declined. Declined! In front of Tiffany's friends. We had to call Uncle Jerry to bail us out." "I'm sure Tiffany survived," I said, my voice deadpan. "How was the treatment center?" Tiffany lowered her sunglasses. Her eyes weren't red from crying. They were bright with malice. You're such a hater, Alina. Just because you're miserable doesn't mean you have to sabotage my launch. You're jealous. Jealous, I took a step forward. I graduated medical school on Sunday. I am a doctor. You were popping bottles in Miami while your sister was achieving something real. Mom stepped between us, acting like the bodyguard for the golden child. Oh, stop it with the doctor thing, she shouted. It's a degree, Alina. Everyone has a degree these days. It doesn't make you special. It makes you arrogant. You think you're better than us? You think because you learned some fancy words you can look down on this family? I don't look down on you, I said quietly. I look right through you. That was the trigger. Mom's face turned a violent shade of red. She marched up to me, invading my space, poking a manicured finger into my chest. You are nothing without us, she spat. We raised you. We put a roof over your head. And this is how you repay us? By cutting us off? By embarrassing your sister? I paid for this roof, I reminded her. My name is on the mortgage, and that's all you are, she screamed. You're the wallet. That is your contribution. Tiffany brings light to this family. You just bring checks. And if you stop bringing checks, you are useless to me. The words hung in the air. Useless. I looked at my father. He didn't look up. He didn't defend me. He just turned the page of his newspaper. Okay, I said. My voice was surprisingly steady. I understand. I walked past her to the office. I grabbed the file box with my name on it. As I walked back toward the door, Mom grabbed my arm, hard. Her nails dug into my skin. Unblock the card, Alina, now. We have bills to pay. I looked at her hand on my arm. Then I looked at her eyes. No, she slapped me. It was a sharp, stinging crack that echoed in the foyer. My cheek burned. Tiffany gasped, not in horror, but in excitement. I didn't touch my face. I didn't flinch. I just looked at her. Thank you, I whispered. She blinked, confused. What? Thank you for making this easy. I walked out the door. I didn't slam it. I closed it gently. Because you don't slam the door on a tomb. You seal it. I treated the next week like a complex surgery. When you remove a tumor, you don't just hack at it. You identify the blood supply, you ligate the vessels, and then, cleanly, efficiently, you cut it out. I didn't block their numbers. I wanted them to be able to reach me. I wanted to hear the exact moment the necrosis set in. Monday morning, 8 a.m. I sat in the office of Mr. Sterling, a real estate attorney with eyes like a shark. You're on the deed. Key confirmed, tapping the document I had signed 4 years ago, joint tenants, but you have proof of 100% financial contribution for the last 48 months. I have every receipt, I said, sliding the heavy binder across his mahogany desk. Mortgage, taxes, insurance, repairs, they haven't paid a dime. Then we file a partition action, Sterling said, smiling without showing his teeth. We force the sale of the property to recoup your contribution. Since they have no equity and bad credit, they can't buy you out. The court will order the house sold. Do it, I said. Serve them. Tuesday, 10 a.m. The bank. I sat with the fraud department. I played the recording of the phone call from my graduation morning, the one where my mother admitted to being at a club, not a hospital, the one where she demanded I unblock the card for a reservation. This is unauthorized use, the investigator said, typing furiously. She admitted to using an emergency card for personal luxury expenses. That is theft, Dr. Vance. We will reverse the charges and flag the account. But be warned, this opens a criminal inquiry. I know. I said. She likes prestige. Let's see how she likes a subpoena. Wednesday. The utilities. This was the pettiest part, but also the most satisfying. I logged into the family portal. Electricity. Cancel autopay. Water. Cancel autopay. Cell phones. Cancel lines. Health insurance. Remove dependents. I didn't turn them off immediately. I just stopped paying. I let the natural consequences of their poverty catch up to them. For 2 weeks, it was quiet. The calm before the radiation sickness took hold. Then, on a Tuesday afternoon, while I was scrubbing in for an appendectomy, My phone started lighting up on the counter across the OR. It vibrated and vibrated and vibrated. I didn't look. I finished the surgery. I stitched the patient up perfectly. When I finally checked my phone, I had 47 missed calls, 12 voicemails. I played the first one on speakerphone in the locker room. Elena, it was Dad. He sounded like he was hyperventilating. The power is out. The power is out, and the fridge is melting, and there's a sheriff at the door. He taped a paper to the front door. It says, "Notice of partition suit. What did you do?" I deleted it. I played the next one. "Mom, they froze the account, Alina. I tried to buy groceries, and the card was declined. The teller said it was flagged for fraud. They cut up my card in front of the line. Fix this right now." I deleted it. The third one was Tiffany. "You psycho. My phone data is off. I can't post anything. Do you know how much engagement I'm losing? I'm going to sue you." I laughed, a dry, humorless sound. They were panicking. Not because they missed me, not because they loved me, but because the host organism had finally detached and they were realizing they didn't know how to breathe on their own. They thought I was the sturdy one, the one who would always take the slap and write the check. They forgot that doctors know exactly how to stop a heart. I didn't reply to a single message. I simply sent one email to my father. Subject: eviction and severance. Attachment: lease termination got PDF. Body: you said I was just a wallet. The wallet is closed. You have 30 days to vacate the property before the court-ordered auction. I suggest you ask Tiffany to pay the electric bill with her exposure. I hit send. The nuclear winter had begun, and the weather was beautiful. It took exactly 34 days for their world to collapse. I didn't watch it happen. I didn't need to. The court records told the story. The house was sold at auction to a developer who planned to bulldoze it. The proceeds went to paying off the mortgage and reimbursing me. My parents walked away with less than $2,000 and a bruised ego. I was finishing my rounds at the hospital when the receptionist paged me. "Dr. Vance? There are some people here to see you. They're causing a scene in the lobby. They say they're your parents." I felt a flicker of annoyance, but no fear. The fear was gone. I took the elevator down. I saw them before they saw me. They looked like refugees from a reality show that had been canceled. Mom was wearing a designer coat, but it was wrinkled. Her roots were showing. Dad looked gray, defeated, holding a suitcase that looked suspiciously like the one I used to take to summer camp. Tiffany was sitting on a waiting room chair, crying into her phone, probably filming a pity me video for sympathy. When Mom saw me in my white coat, her face crumpled. She didn't scream. She didn't attack. She practically ran toward me, hands outstretched. "Elena!" "Oh, thank God." "Elena, you have to help us." I stopped 5 feet away. "I don't have to do anything, Linda. Why are you here?" "We have nowhere to go," she sobbed. "The sheriff locked us out this morning. They changed the locks. They took the furniture. We're sleeping in a motel, Elena." "A motel? It's disgusting." Tiffany wailed from the chair. "There's no room service, and the Wi-Fi is garbage." I looked at them, really looked at them. For years, these people had seemed like giants to me. Terrifying, powerful giants who held my happiness in their hands. Now, they were just small, irresponsible people who had run out of other people's money. "I'm sorry to hear that," I said, my voice clinical, "but I don't see how that's my problem." "Your problem?" Dad stepped forward, his voice shaking. "We are your family. You can't let us live on the street. You have that apartment. It's small, but we can make it work. Tiffany can take the bedroom, we'll take the couch, and you can—" "I can—" "What?" I interrupted, raising an eyebrow. "Sleep in the car? Pay the bills? Be the sturdy one again?" I laughed. It felt light. "No? No?" Mom looked stunned. "Elena, be reasonable. We learned our lesson. We know you're serious now. We just need a little help to get back on our feet." "Just for a few months." "You had a few months," I said. "You had 26 years. You had a daughter who would have walked through fire for you, and you slapped her in the face because she wouldn't pay for bottle service." I turned to the security guard standing nearby. His name was Marcus. He liked me because I stitched up his hand once when he cut it on a fence. Marcus, I said, these people are not patients. They don't have insurance. And they are harassing a doctor? Marcus nodded, stepping forward. He was 6'4" and looked like a wall of granite. Ma'am, sir, Marcus rumbled. You need to leave. Now. Elena, Mom screamed as Marcus gently but firmly guided them toward the sliding glass doors. You can't do this. I gave birth to you. You owe me. I watched them being pushed out into the rain. I paid my debt, I whispered to the glass. In full. I turned around and walked back toward the elevator. My phone buzzed in my pocket. A text from the bank. Deposit received. $42,000. Partition sale proceeds. I smiled. I had a shift to finish. I had lives to save. And for the first time in my life, the only life I was responsible for was my own.